All right, man. We're going to start today's episode with a question. So how many times have you been driving down the road or sitting on your couch and you're like, fuck it, I'm just going to get rid of everything, get a van, and just drive around the world? Well, today's guest did exactly that. But we're going to hear all about it as soon as I throw a few things your way. Would love for you to jump over to my website, brawpodcast.com. Got everything you need to know about the show. Some cool things coming down the pike. Love for your support. So if you like what you hear, tell a friend or 7. That'd be great. And this is one of 2 types of podcasts I do. It's a full-length episode. It's about an hour today. They range from an hour, 90 minutes, and I have a guest or a couple guests on, and we talk about everything. And then on the opposite weeks, it's just me and this microphone and y'all listening, and for about 10 minutes, I spit what's on my mind and in my heart. And I don't have any notes. I just stare at myself in the camera and yell at you. So I enjoy those. I hope you do as well. And, of course, I can't go any further without giving a shout-out to Liv Rishi. These guys, it's so easy for me to talk about because I've been stepping up my game in the gym lately, and my right elbow, man, god damn, I guess that's what happens when you get old. But Rishi Rub, I put a little bit of that on there, throw a brace. Whoo, good stuff. They got a lot of other great stuff on there too. Check them out, livrishi.com, and use the code word TABLE50. You're looking at 50% off your entire order. Good stuff. Thanks for that. All right, man, let's get on to the show. Shane, him and I were talking for quite some time, and we finally got connected, and I'm glad we did. This super cool dude, and what happened was he was in the corporate world, and he traded in his mouse and keyboard for a steering wheel and his computer screen for a windshield, and he's been chasing mountains ever since. And then what's great about it, his attitude is awesome, man. This guy's great to talk to. Check him out over his Instagram. Link is in the show notes, but also on his website. Connect with him on the newsletter because he has these super detailed newsletters about living that life as a conversion van. Even though you're not going to go and do that, they're just great to read because the things that he puts in there, you would never think of unless you were living that life full time. His stories, Jesus Christ. But I'm going to let him tell you all about them. Let's get to it. Well, dude, thanks for coming on, finally. I know it was all on me, dude. I know I dropped the ball on it, but you live a lifestyle that I think most people dream about. Do you get that response?
Yes, for sure. Luckily, where I'm kind of situated, there seems to be a lot of duplicates of me, which makes me super, super happy. I think, it's all kind of relative, like the kind of lifestyle you have, depending on the place you live is unusual, depending on where you live. I quite like to sort of surround myself with similar-minded folks. So to me, it's not all that weird. But yes, guaranteed, it's a super strange, super rewarding life, which, as you know, is living in camper van full time for the past 3 years while doing a lot of adventuring and a lot of hustling on the business side as well, and generally keeping a pretty exciting life.
All right, so were you sitting at a desk one day and you're like, "Fuck this, man! I'm taking a steering wheel instead"?
Yeah, pretty much.
Perfect. Hey, man, just get right to the point.
So I was lucky enough to I come from a computer science background. You'll find a lot of techies who like to live on the road. I had a super nice job, at a desk.
Well, hang on. Now, do you believe that because of that industry, you can work remotely? That drives.
It helps, man. It helps. Luckily these days there's so much more jobs that you can just travel full time and live on the road full time, but certainly tech is one of the industries that allows it a lot. But I did it before, this was long before COVID was a thing where people weren't as used to the remote working thing, though still people were starting to dip their toes into it. But definitely I'm so grateful for the background that I have. I worked specifically in big tech back in Ireland where I'm from, but for a Silicon Valley company, very well-known large tech company. And yeah, I worked for there. I mean, the plan when I sat down at the desk there, I actually knew as soon as I started that job, it's okay, I'm going to be here for 6 months. I'm going to buy a van. I'm going to move to Chamonix, and I'm just going to climb all the time. I ended up staying for like 2 years because I think they call it like the golden handcuffs when you're there. It was real nice. Sure. But I did, I eventually did jump ship from there, built the van, and moved out here. Although I took a kind of circuitous route to get out to Chamonix, where I am now, where because COVID kind of came in, 2.5 years ago, something like that. And I traveled all the way through that. But it was more of a circuitous route to get to Chamonix, where I've only been here a year. Because last year I actually did 18 countries with the van, traveling right throughout COVID and all around Europe with my girlfriend. Which was
Yeah, well, I got questions about that too, because my wife brought up questions, so I have to ask those. But did you see, real quick, you keep bringing up the town that you're living in. What's it called?
Chamonix.
And what country is that in?
It's in France.
France. See, we got
So Chamonix is like mountaineering Mecca. This is where alpinism was born.
Whoa.
So all the big names are from here. The place is like, it's quite insulated in the community that's here, but people come here with like a complete purpose, and that purpose is like the mountains. And so, yeah, it's been my dream for years and years and years and years to get here, specifically with the van. So it's like, yeah, it's nice to sort of live that dream out,
So 100%. But what you can't, how long were you a fan of climbing? Let's get back to that. I know we're going to talk about the van, but obviously you're a huge passion of climbing. Were you using the van, pardon the pun, but as a vehicle to get to where you can just climb all the time? So you're like, okay, I want to go climbing all the time. How can I do this? And then you reverse engineer it and say, I can get a van, I can live in it, I can work in it, and I can, your phrase, I love it, chase the mountains. That's
exactly it. Like, I think whenever you look at like the old school, like van boys, like they're all climbers. Like it's a complete, like, it's a utility vehicle for getting to the mountains. Like that's the old school kind of way of it. And then obviously it's become super hip in the past few years, which is wonderful in its own right. I think like a lot of the dirtbag climbers back in the day, like lived in just dire, squalid conditions, inside their sardine can on wheels. But I have a real nice, I'm not in it right now, so I can't show it to you.
Yeah, people just got to go check out your Instagram.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's the way to see it. It's a super, super cozy thing because for me, it's like a home, Like people really, I'm so surprised what people can live in. But yeah, for me, climbing wise, I've been climbing since university. But even before then, like luckily my dad is and always has been really big into the outdoors. He came to Chamonix over the years when he was a tot. He's 73 now. But like, yeah, so he's done a lot of the routes that but what really sort of triggered it for me was I lived in Vancouver in Canada. I actually had another van over there. This was about 8 years ago. And I went really, really deep when I was over there. They don't have the big, like, pointy, spiky mountains that we have in Europe, but I'm a huge, huge fan of like ski touring, ski mountaineering. And the powder over there and the mountains over there are just so amazing. Like the snow that comes into North America is just a different world from what we really get in Europe most of the time, especially like north, like in Canada and above. So now, 8 years ago, I really got stuck in when I went and moved to Vancouver, spent a lot of time in Squamish, a lot of time in Whistler, and I fell in love there for sure.
Now, how would you say that the snow is different? Because here in the States, I was, we talked prior, and if people don't know, I spent a lot of time in Colorado, and the snow out there is just phenomenal. It's like what books are written about. And then I came out to New Jersey. We went up to Vermont to go snowboarding, and it was like snowboarding on the top of this desk. And they're like, this is amazing. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is horrible. And they're like, this is a great day to go skiing. And I'm like, apparently our greats are different. So
it sounds like New Jersey might be a little bit more similar, and Vermont might be a little bit more similar to Europe. I think there's different, depending on where you are in the world, you're going after different things in the mountains. Like if you're in Japan, you're going to be swimming through snow up to your neck, you know, but you're going to be going on very mellow terrain through trees, and that's the kind of thing. In Europe, because especially, you know, recently, like you talk to guides here who've been guiding 20, 30 years. The mountains were so different 30, 20 years ago. And just with the acceleration, like I'm seeing it firsthand of climate change, you know, like the glaciers this year dropped by like 3 meters, man. It was outrageous. I went to do some climbs this year. We got to the base of the climbs where you start on a glacier. And I know people who had climbed just the year before, and the route is now inaccessible because the first bolt is 20 meters higher above our heads.
Holy cow.
So we're seeing it firsthand, but it's definitely affecting like the snow quality that we get. So like mountaineering here is definitely for the peaks, and the downhills on the skis, not quite as good. But the two places like we mentioned Colorado, and then also you've got West Coast, like Vancouver. Mm-hmm. Over there is definitely where it's more about the downs and like really loving like just the deep amount of snow that comes. But they're two different types of snow as well. Vancouver, they call it West Coast concrete because you get. Hello, I got a phone call. I'm on a hotspot, so apologies.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, they call it West Coast concrete because you get these huge storms coming in off the Pacific. So it's very heavy snow, but you get a huge amount of it. Whereas in Colorado, the bonus you get there in the Rockies is that it's very dry. Like that has to be the best snow in the world, you know. And as you go further north into Banff and Jasper and all along the Rockies, it's just incredible because it's really dry snow. So it's a different form again. Anyway, I digress. I mean, I could go well deep into.
That's all right, dude. I just
a guy from New Jersey. It's like on the wrong side for the snow too much, you know.
Well, that's the thing. And I grew up. I grew up in upstate New York, central New York, and we're sitting smack dab in between, obviously, the ocean and the Great Lakes, and we had the dry snow. You know, we get lake effect, and it would be just piles and piles and piles of snow. And back then, I didn't snowboard or ski or anything like that. I've never skied, but we did a lot of snowmobiling, and I enjoyed snowshoeing as well. Snowshoeing was a lot of fun.
It's incredibly peaceful, man. I mean, for me, like, you know, snowshoeing is very similar to ski touring or splitboarding in the world of snowboarding. And like, for me, that is just the most peaceful thing in the world. There's just something about being out there, like just with the snow, it absorbs all the sound. The colors make it all so peaceful because it's just really just white. There's no sounds out there. Maybe occasional bird will fly across. Like truly, it's so peaceful.
And
very, very meditative.
One instance really stands out for me. You know, I'm going along and I would camp at night. So I would go out for 2 or 3 days and I come along a lake and I'm standing on the lake shore, just a few feet onto the ice, right? And it's snowing pretty heavy to where I can hardly see the opposite end of the lake. And you can hear the snowfall. And then all you really hear is you breathing and your heartbeat. And you're just sitting there going, this is fucking incredible. This is just holy man. Yeah, it's just there's
it's primeval. Like it's actually primeval. It feels like that is what we are supposed to be doing. When you get into something like that, like I love that. Like the going out and winter camping is one of my favorite activities as well. And it's just so basic and it's so like survival based. It just feels right. You know, it's just simplicity and nature and nothing else. And I love that.
What I like to say is my DNA was going, this is what it's about. Yeah. This is what we're supposed to be doing. That's what I like to say, that, you know, we can't change. People say that within 200 years, you know, quote unquote, been civilized, you know, or whatever it may be, whatever you believe in. And you can't change millions of years of evolution in your DNA. You can't.
We're trying really hard right now, man. The world is trying really hard to like go against the grain, do everything we possibly can to like not do what we're supposed to do. Like in fairness, I'm pretty deep in like biohacky, like get the most productivity that I can. But at the end of the day, also I'm super aware of just trying to live as close as possible to being in line with nature as much as possible. But like even coming here, like it really was just to live and to become like as close to nature as possible, because like, yeah, for me, like living in a big city, going into a gray office, like especially somewhere rainy, like in Ireland, it just like a lot of it can get really intense sometimes, and people we're trying to not to get into nature. People don't understand that this is like, not only is this like, people think of it as like a prescription. It's like, oh, if I go on a walk in my forest for 10 minutes beside my house, that's enough. It's like, no, you are a monkey. You are supposed to be in nature, and it's not enough to go on a 10-minute walk once a week beside whatever, you know?
Yeah, no, dude, I could go down the rabbit hole with you so far on this that there's a phrase, and I love some of your quotes. By the way, we're going to get on a sidetrack here. Your website's fucking phenomenal, dude. I get compliments on my website, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta be more like this one. Jeez. But just the amount of content you have on there is great, man. And
I'm trying at the moment to just put out the entire process, start to finish, how to build a van, to right through the whole thing and break it down really logically, because it's such a popular area, but like there's still a lot of misinformation out there because of a lot of inexperienced people who are sort of teaching it, and also a lot of higgledy-piggledy information that's quite scattered across the internet. So I'm trying to be super logical and break it down into sections and chapters so that people really can just do it from start to finish and just put it out there for free, get as many people into it as possible, you know?
Yeah, and I do like how you have such a great combination of information and, hey, look what I do. So your website's not like, oh, look at me, I'm a free bird and I go do this, and yeah. By the way, you can do this too. No, you do such a great combination. It doesn't feel overwhelming either way. It's very inviting, man. So great job on the website, dude. Did you do all that? You're a techie, so did you do all that?
I'm a techie, and you know what? Even being a computer scientist, I'm a hardcore believer in no code, man. No code is the future. So you just do that with like some no code website building tool. So I did all that with that. I think what you touched on there is interesting, you know, about how much personal story you bring into the content that you put out. I think that's always been a line I've always tried to be really careful with, and I've only learned more. You know, before I started a startup that was rather successful and is still going now, I'm no longer part of it, but I think when you do something like that and you're raising money and you're really mass marketing it, like I found it easy for the ego to kind of get out of control at times. And I think it's always that, you know, when your face is in public, like pulling it back and just trying to keep the ego in control is massive. So I've actually very purposely with the van conversion, trying not to have as much Shane in there. Obviously it's nice to have a bit in there, but to keep it like quite educational, you know, it's like, here's how to do it, you know?
Yeah, because I think once people find you or followed you for long enough or that type of lifestyle, they already have a passion for it, right? So now they're looking for you or anybody else for true information. So the way you have it broke down, you're like step 1, step 2, and little squares, and it's the navigation. I owned a video and photo production company for a long time, and you just got to keep it simple. The less clicks, the possible. Just keep it. And I'm a fan of that too. My website is Squarespace. Just click and drag, man. I'm code. Fuck all that, dude. No, I'm not.
I like your website. I think your website's super nice as well. It's like slightly different as well.
Yeah, thanks,
like the navigation is sweet. I think that's what you learn as a coder, you know, as well. If you're somewhat like design orientated, like I love the creative side of life as well. And simple. Like, and in life, just reduce complexity wherever you can. In your design of your website, reduce complexity wherever you can, you know?
Well, it's all about energy, right? So if I want to spend my energy, use you for an example. If you want to spend your energy being out climbing, why do you want to spend all the energy coding a website? Let's get to the point. Let's make it so. But going back to your website, you have some quotes on there. I'm a huge quotes guy. I love good quote. And one of my quotes that probably my top 3 quotes is, every man longs for a battle to fight, adventure to go on, and a beauty to rescue. Right? So going to the DNA thing, a battle to fight, right? I mean, come on, man. Back in the day, you and I would be running at each other with swords, and I'm trying to chop your head off, and you're trying to chop my head off. That's just the way it was, right?
Yeah.
So, me personally, my battle, I go to the gym. I'm a gym rat, and I get my energy out that way. Somebody like you probably mix your adventures in your battle with climbing and your other adventures. I'm going to let people explore that for themselves. Amazing pictures.
Well, just on the battle thing there, because I think there's like 3 topics to explore with the quote you just gave. I love that quote. But like how we go about things that have a certain amount of risk is absolutely a battle. I just finished reading a book called The Rock Warrior's Way, which is a phenomenal book about the psychology and mental game of rock climbing, because it terrifies me every time I go out. It's so
that's beautiful.
scary. And this book is so amazing, because what the guy does is he's basically like, I'm really big into spirituality as well. And this guy has also trawled through a huge amount of spiritual literature to try and find the right philosophy, spiritual philosophy for like rock climbing. And what he comes to is actually warrior philosophy, which comes really originally from like Japan, actually. Like there's a book called The Book of Five Rings by a guy called, I think, Miyamoto Musashi. And he, warrior philosophy, you're going into battle and you're either going to die or you're going to live. He defeated something like 78 people or something like that in a row. But like when you similarly like going to battle with, let's say, climbing, it's this complete mind game as well. And it is a battle, and there are certain things you kind of got to do, because you either do it or you don't, but there's nowhere in between, And I think that a lot of people, especially, my generation and younger generations, like I know the word snowflake is thrown around a little bit. Sometimes it has a bad connotation, but like, we have, and I'm so lucky, I have an amazing life, but like we have so much stuff that's just kind of given to us, that's on our plate. And I think a lot of people who don't venture in and try things that are slightly harder, like you getting up at stupid hours in the morning to go to the gym, or doing slightly risky things, like if you don't go into that risk zone, like there is complete stagnation,
1,000%. Now do you label that risk zone as a battle or the adventure part? So if we're breaking this down into the 3 lines, where would you put the risk?
So I've started paragliding this year recently, and a friend of mine who...
Of course you do. Of course you are.
And a friend of mine who gave me some excellent advice. He's a superb paraglider. He's currently writing. I was with him last night. We're kind of brainstorming on this book that he wants to write. He's got some colleagues who are really high up in the paragliding space, like world class, and he's basically trying to get the stuff from their brain and get it into a book. But he gave me some superb advice, which is like the fastest way you're going to progress is to do lots of volume, but stay well within your
ability.
Your ability, you need to go this certain amount of risk outside, but you have to keep it in within your ability. Because what happens is if I have a fall paragliding or something like that, and I get a really bad scare, like that's going to actually pull me back and hold me back in future in terms of my progression. I'm just not going to progress as fast because I'm going to be super scared. Same climbing. If I fall off because I push it too hard, I'm just going to have a scare and it's actually going to hold me back. So we have to do that and find what is that a perfect amount of risk in order so that we can progress. Like in terms of flow state, they say that like there's many triggers that you can do to get into flow state. One of them is to be, they went super deep down the rabbit hole on this one, but 8% harder than what you consider to be moderate difficulty, to be within your zone of your ability. 8% harder than that, you enter into flow. So I like to think of that with risk as well. You want to be only like less than 10% above where your capability is.
And I love the way you just explained that. That is, there's the way I look at that as well. Like, of course, I'm a gym rat, so the same thing. If I go in and try to shove way more weight than I'm able to, either I'm going to get injured or I'm going to be scared so much it's going to bring me back. So a little bit more, and if you add that to anything. In 6 months, you look back and you're like, I used to do that. Now look what I do. And it doesn't even register that it was that difficult, right? You just push it.
If you're anxious, just train more, man. Like if you're really scared, go back and train more. Like that's the only way.
Yeah, the old saying in martial arts was, the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in battle.
Mm.
Right?
I'm liking it. We're going super deep down into warrior mode right now.
Oh, dude! The other quote that I love, we had T-shirts. It said, "Respect all and fear none."
Hmm.
You know, it doesn't matter, man. What do you got? And then warriors choose pacifism. Everyone else is condemned to it.
Mm.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I love it.
But the adventure. Let's break this quote down. It sounds like we can do this. Now the adventure part, to me, is kind of obvious, right? Like, what do you like to do that excites you or even scares you a little bit, right? So you got to battle. Back in the day, of course, we would go defend against wild animals and other tribes that are trying to take your shit, right? I'm talking deep, deep DNA. Now the adventure would be, in my mind, it's what's over that mountain. Is there something better for myself and my clan, my family over that mountain? Or do we just stay here and kind of idle? Right? I mean, how would you break that one down?
I mean, every time I talk about having an adventure, like,
well, you paragliding and ice climbing, that's different, right?
in the world of mountaineering, there's like, they talk about the 4 types of fun. Do you know the 4 types of fun?
No.
Type 1 fun, type 2 fun, type 3 fun, and type 4 fun. Type 1 fun is just straight up fun. You go paintballing, that's just a lot of fun, you know. Type 2 fun it's not fun at the time, but it's fun when you look back. Type 3 fun is just not fun whatsoever at any shape or form, even when you look back. And then type 4 fun is like kind of a little added in, which is like you die, but that's really definitely not fun, type 4. But
so why would you call type 3 fun if it's not fun at all? Like, where was
it's a bit of a joke, to be honest.
Okay, all right.
You know, and I don't know if I've ever had type 3 fun, because where like so much of adventure comes from is in type 2 fun. Like, it truly is when things don't really go according to plan. You have like, you get a little bit scared. Like, yes, so you know, maybe you be controlled. Maybe if it's a little bit even outside of your control, but so often like adventures that I can say that I've had have been that like more type 2 zone. And there's nothing inherently like better about having an adventure or having like type 2 fun. You get a really good story out of it, and you learn some incredible life skills that you 100% cannot learn if you don't have those adventures. So I think that's like the single reason why, and I'm using adventure in a very broad term. This could be literally any walk of life or any part of life. You could have a so-called adventure, you know, not just in terms of fitness or outdoors. But I think the reason to have these so-called adventures in whatever discipline you love in life, business, art, the outdoors, is to learn, something, because you can only learn so much from reading. Like, I am a huge reader. I read a tremendous amount, but like, and yes, I can take some of those lessons, but honestly, so much of this stuff is learning ourselves through experience, because there are just things that you just can't learn unless you have them yourself. And adventure is like the single best way to learn those things, you know?
Absolutely.
Whatever those things are.
Absolutely. Like, I like to say, you can read about doing push-ups, but until you do them, you're not going to get any benefit from it, right?
Speaking of push-ups, I did my first one-arm push-up the other day. I didn't think I could.
One-arm push-up?
I know.
Damn,
I was like,
dude.
I wonder if I can do this. And I just went down and I gave it a go, because I've been training a lot. But I was quite happy, actually. But I digress. I'm not a huge push-up guy, but I was surprised I could do a one-arm push-up.
Yeah, the only exercise that I don't do a lot of, I don't do like specifically core exercises. Everything that I do is functional lifts and stuff like that, so it builds my core on top of that. But I have a 20-month-old toddler, so that's my cardio. I chase that dude around. But
I'm trying to have a 20-month-old toddler while also doing all the other stuff on the side. There's a lot going. For me, I'm a body weight guy. Like, I do obviously a huge amount of like workout, and especially in the interseason, this like weird time between summer and right now, or the winter, is spend a huge amount of time in the gym. But for me, it's a lot of body weight. which I really love. Like, I'd love to be deeper in the world of calisthenics. Like, there's some amazing guys out there, like the one-arm handstand people, those kind of guys, you know?
Yeah.
I'd love to go deep down the rabbit hole on that.
I watch a ton of those videos. They just get me. I watch them like, damn. Whew. I fall over when I try to put my sock on, and look at this guy. He's upside down and everything else.
But it just feels right. Like, again, in keeping with that thing of living as close as possible to nature and in doing what we do. Like, I do a huge amount of hanging. Like, I'm very big into like primal movements, like Ido Portal, who got the whole primal movement thing going. Like a lot of primal squats, a lot of hanging. Obviously, climbing is super close to it. Like these monkey movements that we're supposed to be doing, and that's why calisthenics definitely appeals to me, because it feels like the right thing that we should be doing with our body.
Absolutely.
Tough, really, really tough. Like, those guys are mega fit.
Jesus. I watch some of these guys and I'm like, I got tired just watching you, and you're not even 10 seconds into your workout.
Yeah.
But hey, speaking of monkeys, you ever hear Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Of course.
Okay. So I watched him the other night. We went to see him live.
Oh, wow. I'm very jealous. I'd love to see him. He's a character.
Dude.
He's a character.
He's such a character. It was amazing. So, of course, there's a lot of things that he said and did, but it was neat. He gets on stage and he pulls up 7 or 8 topics on the big screen behind him. And he goes, you guys pick a topic and we'll talk about it. So we end up, it's hard to explain, but when you're there, before that, he gets on stage and he goes, I have to do some housekeeping. I just want to make sure you all understand that you're here on December 9th or whatever it was, on a Thursday in Newark to watch an astrophysicist for 2 hours. Everybody starts clapping. He's like, okay, just wanted to make sure that you were in the right place.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, who comes to watch an astrophysicist, right? And so with monkeys, so what are we the closest to? Chimps, right? We have, was it 1% or 1 marker off DNA?
It's
right?
Huge. Very, very close.
Okay, so check this out. He puts on the screen a chimp that figures out that these bananas are hanging from the ceiling, and the only way that he could get these bananas was to take these boxes and stack them up and get the bananas. And they thought this blew their fucking mind that this chimp could figure this out. And that's 1 degree from us, right? And here we are, neurosurgeons and computer science and building cars and shit like that, right? So he goes, the aliens, he goes, I didn't say if the aliens, I said the aliens out there. What happens when they're 1% above us? And my fucking head blew up, dude. I just went, holy shit. I've never heard it said like that. So when you keep bringing up monkeys, I was like, oh man, I got to bring that up. Could you imagine? Yeah. And he, of course, his stage.
I just finished reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know if you've read that. Absolute zaniest, weirdest, most amazing book. But that kind of gets me thinking there in terms of the level of complexity that I'm sure like some beings can get to. That being said, the hot topics right now of like AI, man, it is everywhere. With like all the open AI stuff. I'm mind blown from it. I even gave it a go. I had tried a little bit of this, like, not a big believer in it right now. I don't think the tech is there, but like AI copywriting. Like, I do think that in 5 years, bloggers are going to have a crazy hard time, man. Like, to be able to, like, you know, AI to just generate all this content. Like, so many, like Yahoo Finance already does it. Like, they just have all these AI generated like stock reports and stuff like this,
like white papers and stuff. They're just ripping them out.
Not to the extent of white papers, but more like explaining, like going a deep dive into one specific stock and like why it's maybe moved up in price or whatever. Like, they already do this all the time, and they're getting such good SEO from it. But like that landscape, that blogging and SEO landscape is going to be a shit show. Like, it's going to be impossible to compete as a human. But I gave it a go the other day. I went on to ChatGPT. It's that ChatGPT, and you asked it to generate like a van conversion article for me. And it was decent, you know, but it was very It was very, very surface level. But
I was going to
thought it
say
was,
like kindergarten, kind of like kindergarten, first grade stuff, right?
yeah, and you know what the problem is? You have the tragedy of the commons here. You know, this bias whereby, like, it's a very big problem on the internet, especially among bloggers, where we all get our information from the same source. So, like, for me, if I'm researching how to install insulation in the van or whatever, I'm reading, yeah, I'll have lots of different sources. But the problem is a lot of these, especially on the internet, will come from just one source. And if that source is wrong, well, then everybody downstream of that gets the wrong information. This is where like physical libraries are such an amazing thing, because it actually has so many like deeper sources. But chat, you know, like all the OpenAI stuff is coming into this problem now, left, right, and center, where it's reading from all of these sources on the internet that have the tragedy of the commons, where it's just like wrong, because everybody has been wrong, and the original source was wrong.
Yeah, but so even if the original source was correct, and that was 10 years ago, I mean, obviously things change, right? You're not driving around, like using you guys for an example. When I say you guys, the
Aikido.
van and the van and the ice climbing community, where they lived in the van all those years, you know, like back in the 70s and stuff. Obviously that's changed. So if the original source was in 72 and everybody's been picking from it, well, okay, yeah, the wheel is still round. I fucking get that part. And the van is still square, but that's probably about the only thing that's the same as back then. So the original source needs to be updated. It might not be wrong, but it's incorrect for this time. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. I think even the analogy you made with the mountains there is so correct. Like, I look through guidebooks now, and if the guidebook is written like over 20 years ago, you can assume that like so many of the routes in that are not climbable anymore, especially the winter routes, because so much of the glaciers have melted off now. It is not like a winter route at all. And even a lot of the rock routes, they just changed so much, like over the years, like so much of them changed. I really like that idea of like, just things change over time. And for sure it's true. That being said, like, what's going to happen is there's just going to be, and we already have this, but this massive amount of information, and that's just going to be generated. It's just going to go exponential of how much information there is, you know, on the internet. It's already massive.
Oh, it's unconsumable, right? I mean, and then here we are having our little conversation thinking that's going to be out there in the internet, and like it just gets buried. But going back to what you said about AI, it reminds me, you ever watch Good Will Hunting way back in the day?
I love movies about really smart people. They really make, I don't know what it is, I get off on them.
All right, perfect. So one of the best scenes ever in my category is when I think they're sitting by a lake. So it's Robin Williams and Matt Damon. And Matt Damon, of course, is brilliant. And he's like spitting all this stuff out about loving a woman and doing this and going to France and doing this and that. And Robin Williams is like, have you ever felt the warmth of a woman next to you? You know, have you ever touched the Eiffel Tower? Have you, you know, and he goes into examples of you actually doing it, right? So let's take the metaphorical lake. Here's a bench. Here's Shane, the van dude, sitting on it. And here's an AI, right? So a computer with AI. And the AI is going, hey, logistically, this should be right. This should be right. This should be right. And you're like, have you ever been in a van where the heat goes out and it looks at you and like, no? Okay. Have you ever had to fix a flat tire on a frozen highway and it's snowing out and everything like that? No. Oh, shut the fuck up then, dude. I got this. Right? Am I right? You're talking about AI, and I get it with finance. Totally get it with a stock, because it computes and does all that. Fucking get it, dude. Right? But with something in your shoes, it could never compete.
No, I mean, it's a different type. Oh, there's so much. It's such a like a wormhole and a rabbit hole in itself, like the world of AI, and especially when you get into like at what level does it become conscious, at what level is there general artificial intelligence. But there are certain experiences that are uniquely human. It come to exactly what you're talking about. They're like a heater breaking down in the van when it's -20 outside. Like, they are uniquely human experiences, and maybe there is a segregation there in like what a human is and what a machine is. But I read a super interesting book called Life 3.0, he's basically this dude who been in the AI industry for decades, and he set up this organization, this nonprofit organization, to help bring awareness and regulation into the AI space. And he's got massive names in there, like many household names that people would know, and super smart professors in there to help bring attention and regulation to like what can happen if AI does sort of hop out of the box and get out of control. And he gives just basically like different scenarios throughout the book of like, here's how the AI could escape. And before I admit, I'm a techie. I quite love all this stuff. I find it really interesting and exciting. And I do think there's some, amazing usages of it. But after reading this book, I was like, wow, we definitely got to be really careful. Like, I totally understand this dude knows so much more than me. He's a computer science guy as well. And he's just given so many scenarios of where this becomes really terrifying,
And he probably don't even know a tenth of what could really go on, right?
Nothing. Because the thing is, we're getting like all of a sudden in the last like months, but we really are progressing so fast on things. Even like there's a thing about nuclear fusion came out yesterday where we're one step closer to nuclear fusion now, which is like unlimited green power. But in the AI space, like all that has to happen here is that we basically tell the machine learning algorithm, the AI, to like build itself, but better. And then it just keeps doing that and that and that. And it'll just kind of self-teach itself to become smarter and smarter and smarter. And then like within a matter of like days, it's incredibly smart, and it'll just happen overnight.
Sure.
And honestly, people say, yeah, we're really far from AGI. But for me, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think we're going to see some crazy shit I think the next 5 years are going to be so interesting in this space.
Well, I agree with you. And I think about that all the time is the acceleration going up, right? It's this, and this, and then it's just going to go pew. So maybe for 3-4 years, we don't see much and it's kind of trickling. And then for the next 2 years, it just unbelievable amount of stuff comes out because it just accelerates that fast. And I don't know, the human aspect of things, we could go around and around in that. And that brings me to, I used to ask this question all the time, and I think it's very fitting at this point. When the apocalypse happens, whatever the apocalypse, whatever your flavor is, right? Everybody's got their own flavor. How do you think humanity will end up? Like Blade Runner? Or the movie Blade Runner, where it's all tech? Or I use the example, The Postman with Kevin Costner. You ever see that?
No Blade Runner. I don't know The Postman.
Postman, it's like 300 years ago.
Okay, got you.
Okay, everybody lives in hamlets, and of course there's this big army that terrorizes everybody, and nobody trusts anybody, and everybody's running around in handmade clothes, that kind of thing, and they're eating crops and that stuff. There's no tech at all.
Yeah.
What would be your opinion? Doesn't matter the type of apocalypse. How do you think humanity recovers from that? Do you think we go forward or backward?
So I think that like any creature that's under danger, I mean, there's no choice, but you go into fight or flight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, like, yeah, we've wiped out so many creatures who haven't managed to fight back successfully. But I do think that humans are real resistance. And like, even though we are killing ourselves and just like cutting the soil from under our feet, knocking it out, I do think that we're pretty resilient. And I do think that like, at least in some respect, some humans will survive. So then the question is like, okay, well, in what manner will that survival be? Because there's not just like one thing here. It's not just AGI. It's not just climate change. It's not just the soil quality from farmers creating so many chronic diseases that are going through the root. Like there are so many things that are happening right now that in 50 years are just like mad terrifying. I do think some of us will survive. So then it is the manner of like in which that will happen. And honestly, the greatest minds in the world have no idea because there are so many variables. This is like a multivariate problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like it is literally impossible to make predictions when there are that many variables in the thing. That being said, I'm probably more for the like, I could see another, let's say, call it the Dark Ages happen again. Whereby we have stunted our futurism because of how many people, let's say, aren't around anymore or whatever, but there's just not, we don't have that same momentum. So we could have another dark age, let's say, for a while before we kind of build it up again, and then we can kind of get back on the roller coaster. So yeah, that's as close as I could possibly say. As for whether we're living in caves or not, I don't know. As I imagine, possibly you. I quite like myself being a little wilderness man, you know. How I got into the whole world of the outdoors was, and that's why I quite liked your story about like going for the winter camping and all of that, was through bushcraft. Like for me, back 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was just in this hardcore bushcraft foraging kind of mentality, and this self-reliance. Ultimately, I just go out into the woods in Ireland, make fires using my hands, go find stuff to eat, build shelters, this whole thing. And like the stuff you learn from that, definitely I feel, and has continued since, but like kind of well prepared, at least in some respect, if I need to hunker down and fend, you know?
Oh, absolutely. But the thing is though, that's in our DNA, of course, right? But if you don't practice it, or if you haven't had the experience, or the calluses, I want to say, like on your hand, we talk about the 8%, right? That's building calluses on your hand. So if you come out of your nice warm house and get in your nice warm car, because it's got an automatic starter on it, and you drive in traffic and you sit in your gray office and then get in your nice warm car coming home and you sit and watch Netflix, I don't know if you're going to be very comfortable sitting next to a fire, man.
This is the problem with people not being resilient, man. It's like Nassim Taleb's talking about being anti-fragile. Like people are so much in their comfort zone these days, honestly, and they are definitely completely unprepared for if anything has to happen. That's why, like, I'm a huge fan of Stoic philosophy and this idea of like purposeful hardship that like a lot of the Stoics talk about. Like specifically Seneca talks about like having a certain number of days per year where you like wear scanty clothes, you might sleep on a hard floor, like these kind of things where you're kind of purposely just preparing yourself so that when shit hits the fan, you're not completely snookered. But so many people are exactly like you said there, you know, and shit. So are we in so many respects. Like we have no idea as well.
No.
Happens, you know?
But the thing is, it's like I notice a lot of things. Obviously, with my son, we come out in the rain. Okay, it's pouring rain. I pick him up from school, and I'm carrying him, and I got him to the point where I show him that the rain's not a bad thing, right? So I see other parents like huddling him up and covering him up, and you know what my son does when he walks on the rain? He puts his arms out and puts his head up and goes as it's pouring rain on him, and I'm like, good man, all right, cool.
Honestly, that is exactly what you need to do. And there's so many little places in our lives that are easy in which we can do this that people don't do. Things like going, like if it's even here where it's really snowy, I'll go outside in a t-shirt and shorts, like quite often actually.
Oh, that's my outfit year round, dude. T-shirt, shorts.
You actually seem like a shorts dude. I'm not.
Really 100% shorts all year round.
Guys, I know. I know the type.
So my job, give you an idea of my job. We're having a Christmas party, right, coming up, and I was picking on my boss, which I see once a month. I love my job. And I'm outside all day. I don't have to go into this. Kind of fits our conversation. I don't pay attention to the weather report at all because it doesn't matter what the weather is. I still have to do my job outside.
Yeah.
Right. So I just fucking love being outside. Anyway, she goes, you coming to the party? I said, yeah, I had to order a new shirt. And she goes, why is that? I go, I didn't have anything to match my shorts. She's like, you're wearing fucking shorts to the Christmas party? I go, you're goddamn right. I go, I own one pair of pants. Literally, dude, I own one pair of pants.
I am so impressed. You're a man of my own heart. I needed a suit last Sunday because I'm part of a choir here, and we had like a performance in the local church. So I needed a suit for this choir, and I was just realized, wait, I don't know what actually. So desperately kind of floundered around and managed to find one. Didn't quite suit me, but I managed to get it just in time. But I didn't. So while I managed to get the top and the shirt and the bottoms, one thing because I have very big feet, and I don't know anybody who has the same size feet as me. Certainly not with fancy shoes in Chamonix. So I ended up wearing. Listen to this. I ended up wearing my barefoot shoes with my suit to the performance, which are like, I don't know if you know these Vivo Active things, but these are like very ugly shoes for like walking without no support. So it's like walking barefoot, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Dude, did you get a picture of that?
I don't have a picture of the bottom half. That's the part that matters. I do have a part of the top half. Send it to my mother back home, and she loved it. But that was the boring part.
Oh, dude, that is. See, I love stories like that. God damn. But yeah, I just think that even the small uncomfortable things, like I get out of the gym, I'll go in the sauna. They keep it at 180 degrees. I go in there until I just can't fucking take it anymore, dude.
Yeah.
And I got my stuff prepared. I walk right in and get a cold dump in the shower and then take a shower.
Same. And the exact same. Do the sauna, three sessions in between each. Normally do 15 minutes sauna, 5-minute cold shower, 15 sauna, 5 cold. And then I'll do like a 20-minute and a 2-minute. And then just sit on a chair. And I'm talking like 100-degree sauna, like it's like in Celsius. So I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, I'm afraid. But then just sit back on a chair. After doing these 3 sessions over like an hour and 20, sit back, elevate the legs slightly, and just fall back. And I'm telling you, your mind does all sorts of strange things. I love it. I'm sure it's the most incredible feeling. And it really does. That cold exposure means that like living in a van in -20 when the heater goes out, which has happened like several times to me, you're really well prepared. Like it's just that little bit of resilience where it's like, I can handle this.
Yep. Do you know where that comes from? Do you know what you're building up when you're doing that from cold to hot, cold to hot?
What?
Brown fat.
Yeah. That's it. And I need it because I'm a skinny lad. So
I was going to say, damn, dude.
I need as much brown fat as I can get.
Dude,
I had,
that's so fascinating.
Happen earlier in the year. We were doing this climb called Aiguille Chardonnay is the name of the mountain. It's about 3,900 meters, 3,850, something like this. And we got to the top of it and a storm came in, and we had cached all of our gear at the bottom because we had planned to immediately go from the summit down to the base and then skedaddle out. Right. But this storm came in and we ended up rappelling down the wrong gully, down the wrong couloir, and we ended up having to camp out at 3,700 meters with no tent, no sleeping bag, no food, no water, tied to an ice screw in the side of the mountain. My mate ends up getting frostbite in 3 of his toes. And I'm there and I'm sleeping for like 15 minutes and then getting up and I'm like dancing my cotton socks off to stay warm. But like genuinely the cold, the sauna and the cold exposure, I felt so prepared for it. And I didn't have like warm clothes on or anything, but it was incredible that like the practice that we get from doing this, like it's specifically the cold thing. Like you can absolutely get better at handling cold the more you do it.
Yeah, I would be camping in 20 below, and not think much about it, or be snowshoeing at 10 below zero with a t-shirt on in my backpack. And I had pants on at that time, but
this, and you know what else it's like similar to and I love that you've had the same experience, but as well, I do a lot of fasting, and I do a lot of like 3-day fasts, and only do them once a month. And I think before, I've been doing this a lot for the last 1 year, but I've been doing it on and off for like a couple of years. But I think before I was really scared of not eating. Like I thought this was like, I just need to eat constantly. And I remember years ago being in the mountains, and if I didn't eat, I would get really shaky real easily.
Sure.
I remember doing some really big stuff in the States, and being really, really shaky because I didn't have enough like sugar from like eating candy on the way or whatever. And now the fasting thing that I've been doing now, I feel stronger than ever in the mountains because my body just knows it's like, you don't need the food, man. Like it's just like that like low carb and just keeping those like those blood sugars stable. It's truly incredible the effect that has on your energy levels. I found like reducing carbs in general and the fasting I feel so much stronger than I ever have.
That's awesome, dude. Have you ever listened to or read Born to Run?
Yeah. Superb.
I love that. I like
Yeah.
how he mixes the current story with history of humans.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
that part where he goes in for 20 minutes about the evolution of humans with why we can run and sweat and run off a cadence and breathe while we're running, unlike animals and other animals, I should say. But yeah, I
That's
figured
why
you.
I wear barefoot shoes is from that book, because he basically
Ah,
shows, he's like, like Nike, unbeknownst to Nike, like
r-
completely changed the face of the running industry, but also are like basically the reason why there's so many bloody sports injuries these days, because we are now, instead of being flat when we're running like barefoot, we're like this, we're elevated right up at a huge angle, which is
uh-huh.
great. You get extra speed, you get that extra sponge, but huge amount of industries from that constant like leaning forward.
Mm-hmm.
So trying the barefoot shoes they're so interesting. I've been wearing those for a few years, and you feel all the little muscles actually in the bottom of your feet, muscles you didn't realize were there because you never ever use them. Super interesting feeling, but it was from that book.
From that book, Barefoot Ted, I think that guy was.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I don't get into the barefoot shoes. The closest I get is I just use classic Chucks in the gym.
yeah. You seem
You
like a
know,
kind of guy who'd be flip flops and shorts, no?
no Chuck shorts and a ratty old T-shirt. Hey, the T-shirt I just bought, man, you'll like this one. It's a company that I get some supplements from, but on the back it says "Live, laugh, and go fuck yourself." I'm like, perfect.
Hey, let's talk supplements. I am, as I
Oh, okay.
probably mentioned there, pretty big into like longevity slash bit of biohacky stuff. I don't know if that's your vibe too.
No, I usually do just for lifting and
Okay.
more of that industry. But my wife is into the same that type of thing like you were talking about. I don't get into a ton of supplements for longevity type things. I take vitamins
Yeah.
but no, it's protein shakes and like creatine and that type of thing. But
Interestingly, I
I
started taking creatine this year for the first time, for longevity and also for you know, especially with older people. Like one of the biggest things. I'm not an old person, not yet, but actually like bone density is like one of the most important things for being a healthy person who is on the older side, and creatine is like one of the best ways you can possibly increase your bone density. And like for example, if a person over the age of 70 falls and breaks their leg, I remember hearing some insane stat like there's like a 40% chance that they won't like make it full stop.
right.
Whereas having that resilience in their bone density and in the muscles around it to support them is like one of the best things you can do.
Oh, I mean, 100%. It's like going away. I mean, we've obviously been talking about this. My old neighbor, before we moved into our house, he worked out and he was like 72 or something. But I come in from the gym one day and I'm all tore up. And he goes, "What did you work on today?" And I said, "Overhead presses and deadlifts." And he goes, "Why?" And I go, "Well, that's a functional lift. They're both
Mhm.
functional lifts." I said, "Us as a human, that's what we're built to do, carry things and put things over our head." And he goes, "My instructor said that you don't need to do those anymore." And I just went, "Well, are you going to the gym?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, I said, "Are you getting something out of it? Does it make you feel good?" "Yep, good. Keep it at that, dude." And in
Right.
my mind, I'm like, I want to tell you, don't fucking tell me what to do. I'm not going to get into this conversation with you. But
This is the problem. You have to hold back sometimes. You know,
I know.
there are areas that are touchy for people:
Right.
politics, religion, and nutrition and
I
fitness.
got to add that one
And
in there.
fitness, man, like fitness and nutrition are so touchy, and unfortunately, like
But
you
what
just got to be
you
so careful what you can like talk about maybe what you do, but you got to be careful not to preach because people just don't really like it. But at the end of the day, it's like I know that stuff. I don't want to tell you, because I want you to be happy. I want you to be healthy. I want you to know these answers. But you
and
just got to be so careful.
and then if this instructor telling you that this hit exercises that you were doing is getting you out and moving, fuck, dude, right on. You keep doing that because that's getting you moving. But going back to what you said about bone density, I think about that all the time when I'm lifting because grabbing kettlebells and grabbing balls and throwing them around and doing like I like to bear crawl with a kettlebell between like under my chest, and I'll bear crawl. I'll reach down and I'll fling it and slide it down the pathway, and then I'll bear crawl to it, grab it, and do it.
Yeah.
Just
amazing exercise to do. That's like so fantastic, so natural.
Right. And then, but the grabbing that stuff and using your grip and banging your elbows and putting pressure on your joints, that's building density. And that's going to help you 20 years from now.
Yeah.
I just
people
don't
think about it. Like I'm a pretty hardcore cardio guy and always have been. Like that is my absolute like mode by default, is like long distance running, long distance, whatever. But it's really, to be honest, is only in recent, like the last couple of years, has my attention been brought massively to the importance of lifting heavy shit. Like specifically by like, you know, like Andrew Huberman, Peter Attia, these guys, like they talk about just the importance of lifting heavy stuff for bone density, if nothing else. Like it's and especially for men, like, you know, we're in this like age, and for many reasons as well, where testosterone is on like a real bad downward spiral. People seem to be losing it left, right, and center. And there's many reasons why that might be the case. But like one of the best things you can do for keeping your testosterone levels high is lifting weights as a guy, or, you know, in the right kind of way. Because I think I think with the movements we should be doing, they should be functional movements. Like there should be, yes, it makes you feel good and it builds bone density, but I think having these things being very functional as well is super important. I suppose that's why I like the body weight stuff, is because it feels really functional.
Right. And I stick to the functional stuff. Like I tell people when they ask me, they go, do you get all complicated? I go, no, the opposite. I stay very simple. I said, pull-ups, push-ups, deadlifts, overhead presses, and that's really it, dude. And just do them again and again and again and again and again.
People try and make things really complicated, you know. And again, we bring this back to simplicity. But I'm massively into meditation, and I've been meditating for 10 years, like pretty much every single day.
For how long? For how long?
For 10 years. Like it's a massive part of my life. Oh, for how long? Pardon me. I'll normally meditate in the morning for like half hour, and then in the evenings for like 20 minutes to half hour.
Oh, okay, cool.
So a lot. But, you know, it's funny, like I think we're all, especially in meditation, trying to get back to simplicity in meditation. Like so many people try and make it, and I have as well, like overly complicated, adding in like, it could be mantras, it could be like specific visualizations, it could be X, Y, and Z. Honestly, just bringing it back to just focusing on the tip of your nose constantly is like 100% the way. Just keeping it mega simple. And it's the same in like it's exercise. And people are like, surely it can't be just this. Like, surely there's more than this. It's like, no, that's all there is. And the people who are the best in the world at whatever they do, again, in business, in sports, in whatever, that they're actually the people who are resilient to getting bored, I think, of doing the same thing 100%. Over and over and over again. Because that's consistency of the kind of boring shit is what you need to do to get really good at what you do.
And that's where the phrase, it's simple but not easy comes in. You know, it's simple, super simple. And then going back to what we were talking on, so much information is coming to us all the time. Now, if you're quiet for 10 minutes, you're fucking bored. Or if you're only doing one thing, you're bored. Because most people watching TV, and of course, I'm guilty of this too, watching TV, looking at your phone, talking to your wife, watching your kid run around, whatever you're doing, looking on your laptop. We're doing 1,000 things all at once. So now you sit there for 20 minutes. And it's a great exercise for you to be like, all I'm concentrating is on the tip of my nose. That's all I want to care about. That's tough, dude.
Honestly, man, this for me is the single biggest dilemma that we have today. Like, I actually think so much of the problems that we have stem from this. I think it was Thoreau who said that, like, all of man's problems stem from the fact that he can't sit alone by himself in a room for 10 minutes. And like, it's so true. We have a complete, like anxiety goes through the roof if you're even like remotely doing anything close to nothing for any period of time. Like, people have just forgotten how to do it. Like, if we go back beyond 200 years ago, like, think about how much nothing the time there was. Like, you know, even they talk about like hunter-gatherer economics. There's a book on that where where really like you're only working like 2 to 3 days a week in so-called work, like going out and doing your thing, and the rest of the time is free time, it's downtime. I'm like, yeah, you might be talking with people, but there's a huge amount of time that's like not doing things. And I listen, and I and you do too, for sure. I have no doubt. But like I struggle with this a lot. That's why I have to inject the meditation in there, because I'm like pretty hustly and I like doing all this stuff. You know, I like having a busy life, but I think having that injection of that nothing time is incredibly important. It's more than ever today.
Well, and it's part of the 8%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You could take that as that's building up your calluses a little bit. Okay, man, I'm not asking you to do half an hour. Do 10 minutes. Yeah. And what popped in my mind is I make a conscious effort when I'm going into the store and I'm standing in line at the grocery store or whatever store, right? I'm about to purchase something. I'm standing in line. I don't look at my phone.
Yeah.
I sit there, I stand there and communicate with other people, right? Because there'll be other people standing there. So I'll knock up conversation, or I just kind of ingest my environment, you know, and kind of hang out a little bit and not have my head down looking at my phone, you know.
Well, you know what you've done there, though? What you've done there is really smart, because you've set a rule for yourself. I think like the rules-based life is the best life going. If you just tell yourself, this is how it is, this is what I do, and there is no straying from this, then like all the little anxieties from decisions go out the window. So you've told yourself, whenever I'm in a queue at a shop, I'm not going to take my phone out. That's your rule, and you never break that rule. You don't have to decide when you're in the shop what you're going to do, because you've already made your rule. I have the exact same thing when I go to the toilet. I say, I'm not going to bring my phone to the toilet.
No, dude, I can't. No.
Like, that's the rule. That's the rule. And then you don't break it. Or in the same way, like a vegetarian, let's say, is like, I'm vegetarian. That's the rule. They don't have to decide, am I going to eat meat today? Am I not going to eat meat today? The rule is already made.
You're a vegetarian. Right.
Like, that's the rule. There's so much power to just setting those rules and just not breaking them. Like people wonder like, oh, where's like, these hyper-productive people, these super motivated people, how are they doing it? They've literally just set up like a few rules for themselves that they don't break. It's like, I am going to go to the office every day and just sit there and just write. Like, I don't have to be there forever. I don't have to do super productive work. I'm just going to show up. And like that rule of like, I'm going to do it every day is how it happens in the long run, you know?
Yo, absolutely. And I've been sober for over 5 years. And that was part of mine too, and my mindset now, you know, everybody's journey through sobriety is different, right? Mm-hmm. But mine, it's not even in the realm. It's like, do you drive tractor trailer? No. Do you drink? No. I mean, that's the type of thing. So it doesn't consume any of my energy. Now I have some friends that they like break into a sweat multiple times a day because they can't. That makes them feel that way. And they've been sober for like 15 years. And I'm thinking to myself, the fucking energy that takes, right? But that's how they do it.
Cold turkey is honestly easier, man, than like trying to have a little bit here and there. Like if you don't want to eat sweets, don't bring them into the house and don't see them every day. Like that's the answer. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you a little bell for our time.
All right, man. Dude. I think you and I could sit here and talk for a day or two. So, but before we get out of here, tell everybody, just give your, floor is yours for a bit there. Just holler at everybody.
Well, if you fancy checking out the old van life and how to build one, how to get on the road, how to do it from start to finish, go check out thevanconversion.com. A rather memorable URL, I would say. So yeah, go check that out, and you can find whatever about me on there as well if you fancy it. But that's the current project that is my main baby. Currently writing a book for it. I am on the very final section. My goal, which I honestly think I'm going to hit, which really surprises me because I thought I would overshoot it, is to finish the book by the end of the year. So I have 2 weeks left. So I am just showing up to the office every day to write, and I think I might hit it. So keep an eye on that. There's a newsletter on the website as well, so you can follow and get all the chapters for free. I put them out there too. So appreciate it.
Awesome, dude. And you got to check all the notes. All the links will be in the show notes. You got to check out this dude's Instagram as well. His website's amazing, as we talked about, but his Instagram is fucking kick-ass, dude. The photos are amazing. We didn't touch on your old lady riding around with you, but we'll do that again in another time. How's that?
Can do, man. That sounds good to me. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Thanks, man. We'll talk at you.
Peace out.
Easy. Back away. Close the tabs for your bank. Put the phone down. Don't mortgage your house just yet to live this type of lifestyle. In the show notes is the best way to get a hold of Shane. I suggest you do that, and he'll answer any questions, and you can live vicariously through him as well on his Instagram. It's awesome. Definitely check that out. All right, I'm going to get you out of here because I know you got shit to do. But before I do that, of course, I would love for you to check out my Instagram, B-Raw Podcast, and website, BRawPodcast.com. Everything you need to know about the show is there. Would love to hear from you and talk with you as well. And Live Rishi. Guys make high-quality CBD product. Don't forget, use a code word TABLE50. Get 50% off your entire order. All right, man. Hailing from the state with the first deadly, infamous theme park. Action Park, New Jersey. All right, man. Till next time. Don't act cool. Be cool.